We have a very special guest alert because on today's show, we are bringing on Chargers starting center Bradley Bozeman to talk about reuniting with a scheme that he loves with Greg Roman and also why he's excited to bring Smash Mouth football to Los Angeles.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers together for 8 seasons, but this is our 6th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen, as always, and to make sure you never miss big-time interviews like the one we have today, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. And it was so awesome having Bradley Bozeman on the show today to talk about reuniting with Greg Roman and exactly why he loves that scheme and why he thinks his game is such a good fit for that scheme. But it was also just kind of interesting getting kind of the insights of playing the center position and why he hopes that he can use this year in Los Angeles to prove that he should retire as a Charger, which we love. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Here he is, Bradley Bozeman. All right, guys, we have a very special guest on today's show. Super excited to have Bradley Bozeman here with us today. And first, I'll just say, hey, man, thank you so much for your time doing this with us. We are so excited for the season and all the changes happening with the Chargers right now. And we know you're a busy man as a father of 2. Congratulations on Bailey Bozeman being born. But thank you so much for spending some time. I know it's hard to come by these days, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you guys having me. Yeah, I'm excited. So yeah, baby Bailey, she's doing good. She's keeping us busy for sure. So pair with Brody, they're a dynamic duo. So
yeah, we're living in somewhat of the same world right now. Obviously, have a newborn daughter as well. But before we start, I just wanted to tell everyone watching the show today that they can support Bradley Bozeman by donating to the Bradley and Nikki Bozeman Foundation at BozemanCharity.com, where the Bozeman family helps fight against food insecurity for communities in need. They're doing such cool things over there, even getting the police involved to help drop off meals to people who need them. It's such a cool story and what they've been doing over there. So make sure you guys check that out to help support and welcome in the newest Charger. But let's start here with just what your game is, Bradley. I mean, I think when you watch you on tape, I mean, I'm sure you're watching yourself, but as we were watching you after the Chargers signed you, the physicality and the grittiness is definitely something that stands out, especially when you're watching college players and stuff like that. It's like, this dude loves the grit and the physicality that comes along with being an NFL offensive lineman. So the Chargers have talked many times before, especially the new regime, about, hey, we want to be a team that other teams don't want to play. Like, you're going to see us on the schedule and be like, God, we have to go play them this week. That's going to suck because you know it means a certain thing. So how much pride do you kind of take as a player of being a center that maybe other defenders don't want to go up against on Sunday because they know it's just going to be a slugfest?
yeah, the physicality is always been my bread and butter. Hard work and physicality. I'm not the greatest athlete in the world. We all know that. Everyone knows that. But I just feel like everything else I bring to the field is just outplays that so much. I love contact. I love going and bashing my head against the wall every play. I just enjoy it. Like, I want to be one of those guys that when they line up against me, it's like their head's on the swivel, knowing I'm coming to take a knockout shot if I can. So, I love the run game, love getting downhill, love everything we do, and we're doing now. So, just excited about it, excited to get to the season and kind of put pen to paper and get rolling on it.
So I'm sure like one of the reasons you were excited about joining the Chargers was reuniting with offensive coordinator Greg Roman, who you obviously played for in Baltimore. I know that you've said that he's not afraid to run the ball, but do you think that Roman's system fits well with what you do best on the football field?
Yeah, I really do. I do. I know G-Road, me and G-Road have been together for 4 years in Baltimore, and then now here. And I think when I was with Carolina, I went to play Baltimore my first year out of Baltimore. I think I saw him after the game. He goes, "Hey, you never know what's going to happen. Look here, we're back together again. The band's back together again." So, no, I love his team. I love the things he does. I love his offensive mindset and his philosophies and everything else he does. He really paints a great picture all across the board. He's flexible. He'll do whatever you have to do to win the ball game. Whether you gotta throw it 50 times, you gotta run it 50 times, whatever it is, he's going to do. He's going to put us in the best situation. So, excited to be back in that scheme. excited to be a part of this offense and just ready to get rolling.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Chargers fans are like, wait, is Justin Herbert not going to throw the ball anymore? Like, we have Greg Roman now. I mean, I think, ran it more than he's thrown it in most of the NFL seasons that he's had as an offense coordinator. It's like, well, if you have Justin Herbert, you're probably, going to be throwing the ball plenty too, and you probably want to make great investments to protect him as well. But it is funny that you bring that up about, seeing Greg Roman and him saying, hey, you never know, we could come back together at some point, because the Chargers are basically the Ravens of the West right now. I mean, Joe Ortiz, since taking over, has brought in a ton of former Ravens, but it's not just former Ravens, but former Ravens that had a big part in having one of the most successful rushing attacks in the NFL. I mean, when you're talking about kind of the highest level of running the football in the NFL, it's been Baltimore for a long time, including when you were there. So, like, now that you have Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins and yourself, Hayden Hurst, how confident are you guys that you can kind of bring some of that mentality that led to one of the best rushing attacks to the Chargers, who really haven't had a great running game in a very long time?
Yeah, we take a lot of pride in that for sure. You want to bring that physicality, that mindset, everything that we were able to do when we were in Baltimore. You're reading off that list of names like it's like, heck, I'm back to first, second year in the league. Like, all those names, just guys I've been around and guys I came in with. I think me, Gus, and Hayden came in together, and then JK followed up not too shortly after. But I'm excited about it. You talked about Justin. He's not going to throw the ball. It's like, no, he's going to throw the ball. Like, it's going to make it so much better of being able to be balanced, like with his arm strength and his accuracy and the things he brings to the table. I think it's really going to bring a great balance to this run pass threat. So.
Something I'm very much looking forward to, because the Chargers have not had that offensive balance in quite a while. But, you've had to work with several offensive line coaches in your time in the NFL. And now that you get to work with Mike Devlin and, of course, Chargers legend Nick Hardwick, it's obviously very early on. But what have your impressions been so far with Mike Devlin and Nick Hardwick?
Yeah, I love Dev. I had Dev for, I think it was Reese's Senior Bowl. He was my coach there. So I got to know him a little bit there. But really like him, love his mindset. He was with Joe D.L. Sanders over in Baltimore. So we get to send back a bunch of Joe D quotes, but love everything he brings to the table, loves just his mindset on it. And then Nick Hardwick, he's been great for me. We've been have to have a lot of conversations because he's a little bit different player than I was. He's really technical in everything he does. And, we just talked through schemes and different things and different techniques that we like to use. And, he talks like how he used to do it, and I talk how I like to do it now. And you find compromise, you find better ways to do things. So it's great to have those kind of minds in your room, to have Nick is a huge asset to us. So I'm just really excited, especially to the young guys, I had Marshall Yanda, and Marshall, he's going to be all one day. So, to have a guy that's been there, that's done it, that played a long time in the league, that did it at a very high level, it's just such a great resource, and I really hope they take advantage of it, and I hope they realize what kind of resource he is.
Well, and now, it's probably crazy to think like you're kind of that guy, right? Like you're kind of the Marshall Yanda of this team when you're looking at a really, really young offensive line around you. Like, you're the big veteran in the room. That I don't know if there's many guys in that room that have been in the league as long as you now. So I'm sure you're having to kind of take on some of those responsibilities as well. And the good news is you have a really unique perspective, having been coached by some of the greatest coaches in recent NFL history, recent football history, right? Because not only were you with John Harbaugh, who's one of the best coaches in the NFL, you're with Nick Saban. You're a two-time national champion at Alabama, which is awesome. And I'm sure that, they're all very different coaches, because you have John Harbaugh, you have Jim Harbaugh, you have Nick Saban. But is there any kind of one trait that you think that all of those guys share? Because I'm not going to say, hey, how is Jim Harbaugh like Nick Saban? They seem totally different just as far as the kind of people they are. But is there any kind of one trait that these kind of winning coaches, guys who have won at the top level, have in common?
Yeah, absolutely. It's consistency. They're consistent. They're consistent every single day in what they do, their approach, the things they talk about. They're intentional with what they do and how things are lined up. Like you said, everyone's a different person. Just like everyone's a different player. They all have their ways of doing things. They have their ways of their little nuggets of information they like to push in, different stuff. But I think consistency is the biggest thing, and just that expectation, what they demand of you, and that's definitely between those three coaches. That's what they bring to the table for sure.
We have more great things to get into with Bradley Bozeman, including why he's so happy to be in Los Angeles now with his family and why he's hoping it's going to be a long-term stay and that he can retire as a Charger, and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, though, I need to tell you guys about FanDuel because it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and so much more. I also love live in-game betting as well, as where I get my best fix. But it means basically that you could pick the biggest favorite even on the money line, and if they win, you get $150 in bonus bets. And I've been really into the Stanley Cup playoffs right now. Tonight, I am locked in on Stars and Oilers, where you can get the Oilers at -1.5 at plus 198 odds. That's almost 2-1 if the Oilers are able to tie the series at 2-2 and win by 2 goals. And you can bet on the over-under as well at 5.5 goals for this one. It should be a great game. But even if you're just looking forward to football season, you can already bet on Week 1 Chargers versus Raiders, where the Chargers are a 3.5-point favorite. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. But all you have to do to get in on this action is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
So yeah, the last couple of years in Carolina was pretty tough. I'd say for you guys with 2 separate head coaches getting fired in the middle of the season and having to learn multiple different offenses. How tough was it to grasp an offense and get things clicking offensively when there was so much change?
It was the offenses never really truly changed. They morphed a little bit, but they didn't truly completely just change books. We more switched chapters, but it was definitely challenges. There are challenges in that. Unfortunately, head coaches get fired. People get fired when things aren't going right. And the players take part of that too as well. So that's it's definitely a knock on us, and it's something that you take personal as a player. I think with Matt Rule, it was 3 games in. With Reich, it was 7-8 games in. So, it's one of those things you never want to see it. Like, you never want to put your head coach in that position because things aren't going right. And, I'll give it to the players. Both of those years, guys just stepped up. Guys just kept swinging the bat, kept going after it. And, that's a hard thing to do. It's hard to try to stay consistent, try to be the same player you are. You can be like, you know what? I got this plan for the offseason. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Guys were locked in every single day. It didn't quite work out for us the second year. The first year, though, we went on a little winning streak and were able to have a chance to make it to the playoffs, but just fell short. So, like I said, it's a tough place to be in. It's a tough locker room, but those guys always just came back and stepped up to the plate and were just ready to roll.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be tough, and we're asking the question, too, just because the Chargers went through that last year, right? Brandon Staley got fired midseason. The Chargers had to go to a different interim head coach, Giff Smith, for the last 3 games of the year, and we just always wondered, that must be tough just to kind of have all those things going on and kind of just pretend like business is normal, and that is part of what, being an NFL player is. But for you, though, to have gone through those changes, right? I mean, including interim coaches, you got basically 4 guys who were the lead voice in that room over 2 seasons, which is very, very rare. For you, when you kind of look at the best case scenario, like how you see things folding out or unfolding as still a pretty young player, that should have a lot of miles left in his gas tank. Like, for you, is the best case scenario, hey, I'm here. I have a kind of a prove it deal, a 1-year deal. I'm here to kind of show, hey, I can be here. I want to be kind of in a situation where I can see how this thing unfolds and how we can kind of build this team with the Chargers towards a championship team.
Yeah, that this is a place where I see myself, finishing out my career. I'm here to prove that I'm the guy to take over this role for the rest of my career, no matter how long that is. So that's my mindset. That's my mindset every day, going in, being the leader, trying to be the captain, just being the guy that I am, that I've always prided myself in being, and being in a scheme that really does fit me, and just be able to go play smash mouth football, for the next 3, 4, 5, however many years I have left. But just that's my plan. I want to be the guy. So that's my mindset.
Probably be nice to be able to set down some roots too, right? Not have to move around so often.
Especially in LA after being in Carolina and Baltimore. I'm sure the wife's loving the weather out here.
Yeah,
that'd be nice.
California, it was intimidating at first. You see everything on social media and all that like that. But we got out here and we've really started to fall in love with California. It's been such a great transition for us. We're starting to kind of settle into our routines and everything like that. And just I feel like every single day there's something new that we love about this place. So we're just excited to be here. We're excited for this journey, and we hope we're here for a while. So.
Well, yeah, we've talked about how, center is probably one of the toughest positions on the field, and not only having to worry about not fumbling a snap, but also checks and protections and things of that nature. When the offense is on the field in 3rd and long, for example, and you're throwing it, what are some of the things that you look at and you're trying to communicate before the ball is snapped?
You're the biggest thing is you're trying to get everybody on the right page. You're trying to make sure no matter what happens, you're all blocking the exact same way, and everyone's keyed into what we're doing. But then after that, it's you're watching safety rotations, you're watching, who's pressuring, has different levels at linebacker, where your threats are on the defensive line, whether you have a guy like, Aaron Donald, thankfully retired, but I think every offensive lineman deep down, it's like, thank you for retiring.
Hallelujah.
Right. But no, if you get guys like that, taking the protection slot to him, or whatever it may be, just making sure that the quarterback, the offensive line, and the running back are all on the same page. That's really the biggest thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that goes into it. I mean, I think having seen Corey Lindsley, like a dude who literally would just in the huddle stand facing the defensive line as the other guys were all turned around, just because he always wanted to get as much of a competitive advantage, maybe just even psych people out on the other side. Like, hey, what is he looking at? You know what I mean? Why isn't he huddling with everyone else? Maybe that was part of it too. But I think you can see when you have someone like Corey Lindsley and he has to leave for obviously very unfortunate circumstances, how important that position is and how much it goes into it, and even how much he was helping Justin Herbert, right? As a young quarterback, like having a guy up there that knew some of those things, I think really helped him early on and being able to help him identify pressures. Because I think what you're looking for is you don't want a free blitzer, right? You don't want something that's going to surprise you and end up with a really negative play because somebody couldn't get covered up, or whether it's a running back or a tight end or somebody kind of blocking the opposite direction, whatever that is. What have you kind of seen from Justin Herbert from the standpoint of how he's commanding things early on at OTAs? Have you got to see any of that, since you guys did do a little bit of 11-on-11s, which we didn't see in prior years of Chargers OTAs? How have you thought about kind of how he's kind of controlled the huddle, how he's called protections and things like that, obviously at a very early stage?
Yeah, he steps in the huddle. He's the leader of the huddle. He steps in, everyone stops, everyone, whatever side conversations are going on, they come to a halt. And that's what you want to see out of your quarterback. You want to see that he demands respect out of people, and people give him that respect, and you definitely sell that from day one. And it's just he does a great job of coming in. We haven't done a ton of blitzing. We haven't really gotten to any exotics or anything like that yet, but does a great job of knowing where to be, what to do, at the whole 9 yards. He's been in the league now. This is his 6th year, I believe. But I think he's 1 year back for me. But yeah, he's he does a great job of knowing the ins and outs of everything, and so it's exciting to have a quarterback like that, and just really excited about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see you guys play together, man. Definitely. So you've been a nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award multiple times for yours and Nikki's charitable efforts, which is well earned. Obviously, providing millions of meals for those in need. You and your wife have been helping people since your time at Alabama. How important is it for you to use your platform to help change lives?
It's really huge for us. It's something that we've always taken pride in ever since our time at Alabama. So anything that we can help to give back, to help someone, bring someone up, you never know how far it's going to go in someone's life. It's the ripple effect. And, throw a pond and you throw a pebble in a pond and see how many ripples come off, and you don't ever know where those ripples are going to go. So, that one person may turn around and help 10 people, and those 10 people turn around and help 10 more, and it's just a ripple effect, and just continues to go. So, it's such a big emphasis for us to use our platform, because God's given us such an amazing platform. And to not use that would be such a waste of an opportunity. And so we do everything we can. Right now it's our Sink Sack boxes, which is supporting your neighbors and communities. And those are 6x6 food boxes that go in back of squad cars, and those squad cars go into low income areas and pass out those boxes. And with those QR codes that are on the boxes, they have extra resources, whether it's more food security or after school programs or exercise equipment, just whatever's in that local community. So not only are you feeding kids, you're able to inform kids and give them an opportunity. And then you're also able to strengthen I feel like a broken relationship between the community and the police officers. Because there's so many good cops out there. There's way more good cops than there are bad cops, because we all know there's a bad apple in the bunch every now and then. But these guys, they want to serve and protect. Guys and women want to serve and protect, and they do such an amazing job. And just the response we've had off of it has been just breathtaking. Not only from the police side of it, but from just the human side of it. To be able for these cops to be able to bring a box over to a kid and need nothing in return. Just a friendly face and a smile, and here you go. So it's been great. It's been a great program for us. I think we've served over 3 million meals now. So
incredible.
It's been awesome. We've had such great help in our communities though that we've been in to be able to give back like this. So it doesn't just happen just because of that. It takes a village. So
yeah, and it's not just money too, right? Like, it's the amount of time and stuff that you put into it is super admirable. And going back to the ripple effect and things like that, I think with the boxes and the QR codes to get more help, it's like, hey, if you give a man a fish, right, you can eat for a night. If you teach a man to fish, you can eat for a lifetime. And just like, so much of it too is just about the information and getting to this information to the people who might not know those resources are available to them. So to be able to kind of have a double-edged sword like that, where not only you're helping them in the short period, right, but you're able to potentially help them long-term and help them get their life turned around or whatever the case may be, is super, super admirable. And I mean, it makes you easily one of the best Chargers to root for, and so much easier to root for a dude doing so much good work. So Bradley, thank you so much again, man, for giving us the time today. I know as a father of two, I can barely keep my head on straight as a father of one. So thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. Thank you to Nikki for helping us set this up. You guys are doing such great things, and hopefully we can get you on the show again.
Absolutely. It was great. Appreciate you guys for having us.
Another special thank you to Bradley Boseman for giving us some time, but we still have more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast, including talking about why Bozeman is going to be such a big influence on how much better this Chargers offensive line can improve, and the biggest questions we have about this group, and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. All right, David, well, now we got to hear it from the man himself about this new Chargers offensive line and one of the newest players on it with Bradley Bozeman. But I wanted to take this opportunity with some time left on today's show to just talk about the unit as a whole, because how well Bradley Bozeman does or does not play is going to have a huge impact on how much we think this offensive line can actually improve or not, right? The center is such an important position. And unfortunately for Chargers fans, we kind of realized it because of the absence of Corey Linsley, right? It's not even anything against Will Clapp, but when you see the drop-off there and how important Corey Linsley was, you realize why the Chargers made it a priority to go out and get Bradley Bozeman, someone who's been in this system before and been in this scheme before, and can help even the other guys around him as they're kind of settling in to what this new offense is going to look like. But I do want to tell everyone to make sure that they're checking out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel, where you can get coverage of every sport that is happening with the way that only the local Locked On experts can give you. So if you guys want to check out the first ever national 24/7 sports live streaming channel on YouTube, make sure you guys go subscribe to Locked On Sports Today. David, let's talk about Bradley Bozeman, because obviously we were kind of one of the biggest shows, I think, out there to say, like, hey, hold on. Don't just base this signing off of the numbers in one really bad year for the Carolina Panthers as a whole, and for Bradley Bozeman specifically, and how much that offensive line struggled. And we said, hey, you can't always take the numbers, as the Bible, and you have to kind of take things with a grain of salt at times, because it's not always as bad as it looks. But to me, when I'm looking at this Chargers offensive line and why we think it can be a lot better, it starts with Bradley Bozeman, because the center position is so important, and him having a comeback, bounce back season this year is going to go a long way in the Chargers trying to figure things out along that line.
I agree. I think Bradley Bozeman will come in here and he can be a calming stabilizing force for Justin Herbert. I think that's extremely important. You talked about it, right? The Chargers have had a lot of turnover at the center position with Corey Linsley going down, and then you have Will Clapp coming in and playing for a little bit of time, and then he goes down with an injury, and then you have Brendan Hymus, who is a tackle, who's a converted guard, who's converted to center. So there's just been a lot of different guys that have been cycling through that position, and so having Bradley Bozeman, a veteran who has been in this system, who understands the running schemes, that understands the protections, that knows where everyone is supposed to be, is going to be a calming presence for Justin and for the young guards that are going to be next to him, whether that's young in age or young just playing that position in general, if it is Trey Pipkins there, beside him. So I like the fact that Bradley Bozeman's going to be in the middle. I think he is going to be such a difference maker for the entirety of the Chargers offensive line.
And I think he can be much better in pass protection than we saw from last year. I mean, when we had that show, we basically talked about like, hey, the ability for a quarterback to be able to avoid sacks, right? Like, and we said, hey, like basically like 5% of Will Clapp's pressures that he allowed last year actually turned into sacks because Justin Herbert was so good at getting away from him. Like 25% of the pressures that Bradley Bozeman allowed last year turned into sacks. So it's not always an even thing where it's like if you have a better quarterback that's better at escaping sacks, the offensive lineman's numbers are going to look a lot better. And with Bryce Young, he had the guy who was the worst in the NFL as a young rookie player last year at being able to avoid those sacks. But the one place that he's always been good is the running game. Like the running game and his ability to run block has never been in question. And when you're talking about the Chargers improving a crucial aspect of their offense, I have huge confidence that he's going to be able to do that in the middle of this line. And as he just told us, like getting guys lined up, knowing who guys have to block in the running game is so important in turning a 3-yard run into a 25-yard run and making sure everybody is hitting the right spots. And at the center position, he has been one of the best run blocking centers in the NFL since he came into the league. So I'm excited for what he brings. But I do know also that you're only as good as what's around you, right? Part of the reason that the offensive line for Carolina struggled last year was because it was kind of a group effort. And when players around you are struggling, it makes your job harder too. And that's why I think that the X factor kind of going into this season is Zion Johnson. And if he can finally make that leap, David, because I think if he continues to struggle, it's still going to have some problems with this offensive line that we've seen in the past. And a lot of it, especially with the lack of competition they have for him, is going to come into how much he can actually improve this year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when the Chargers drafted Zion Johnson in the first round, they switched him from left guard to right guard, and, he kind of struggled with that transition. He struggled to find his feet, gave up 5 sacks in 2022. Then they moved him back over to left guard, which is the position he played in college, gave up 4 sacks, but also just didn't feel like he was comfortable. He just didn't feel like he was playing to his potential. When Zion Johnson was drafted to the Chargers, we knew him to be a very technically sound football player, a guy that was just rock solid, in pass protection and run blocking, right? That was his calling card. That's what, the tape showed us when he came into the league. But we have not seen that first round form of Zion Johnson quite yet. So I think after a full year of playing left guard, knowing that that's going to be the position that you are going to be playing, and also, switching to a scheme that's going to run the ball a little bit more. I mean, I think you can ask offensive linemen across the board whether they like to run block or pass block. They're going to say run block almost every single time. That's going to help them get into the rhythm of the football game and get more comfortable. I think that is going to pay dividends. And also, by the way, Zion Johnson looks like an absolute monster this year. Like, he looks like an animal. Physically, he definitely looks the part. Let's hope the physical aspect of it and his play on the field marry up.
Yeah, and I think the Chargers are showing the faith that they have in him by the competition or lack thereof that there is in that guard room right now. Because the thing is when you're seeing Trey Pipkins slide into guard, he's not sliding into Zion Johnson's spot, right? No. When Jamari Sawyer gets his crack again, it's at right guard. It's not at left guard. It doesn't feel like it's like, hey, Jamari Sawyer and Zion Johnson are kind of in a competition if Trey Pipkins is really slated to be that starting right guard. So I think that they have shown you that they have faith in him. Obviously, he looks the part. And I think just what it could bring for the Chargers if he were to take that next step, because I do think in these games when you watch them, and, obviously we're in the unique situation of watching every Chargers game outside of the Jacksonville Jaguars game multiple times over the last 8 seasons, right?
Yeah.
he has long stretches of being really good, and it just seems like a couple times a game he just has a really bad player. There's just a lapse in judgment or a mental lapse. But if you can actually pair him with Rashawn Slater, and both of those guys can play at an above average level, and you can have an all-pro left tackle and an up-and-coming Zion Johnson that can take the next step, what that gives to you as far as, like, we have a staple now. We have a bread and butter. We need 2 yards. These are who we're going up against. And also, pairing Zion Johnson with 2 dudes who are exceptional at run blocking around him. Bradley Bozeman is that. Bradley Bozeman's a better run blocker than Corey Linsley was. Yep. So, like, to have those guys surrounding Zion Johnson, if he can make that leap and you have that trio on the left side, an imposing trio that can all potentially be good run blockers, I think it's going to go a long way in helping the Chargers improve in the number one area that they've told us consistently that they need to improve at and what they're really focused on this offseason. So a lot of it's going to come down to those couple of things. Obviously, who ends up winning the right guard position, having an elite set of tackles potentially, or even just if Joe Alt really struggles. That's another thing that could get in the way of this as he transitions to the right side. How long will it take him? There's a lot of questions surrounding this offensive line, but I'm very bullish on their chances of being much better than the unit that we saw in 2023, even if it might not seem like that on the surface. I think there's a lot more to this group, and I think this coaching staff now has to be tasked with getting more out of a group that really last year seemed to be underachieving. And I think they have a group that can do that with Nick Hardwick, with Mike Devlin, with Greg Roman, who's literally sent an entire offensive line to the Pro Bowl in 1 year. So I like their chances, but that's going to wrap things up for today's show. We do have Chargers OTAs happening this week. If anything comes out, you know the only daily Chargers podcast will be here to cover it with you guys tomorrow. So make sure to don't miss it by subscribing or following for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listening wherever you get your podcast from so you never miss big special guest episodes like today. And you know that we post the show every day to all of our social media. So you can follow us on Twitter at LockedOnLAC, on Instagram at Locked On Chargers, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. You can also find me on Twitter at Dan Talk Sports and David Drogmeyer at Dro Talk SD. But that was so much fun. Shout out again to Nikki Bozeman and Bradley Bozeman for coming on today's show and the charitable efforts that you guys can go support if you want to, because they're doing some really cool stuff. But make sure you guys are back here tomorrow because it is your team every day. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.